who's this? Satya Shanti. Deliver information deliver information in a proper way and in technically. True. Yes, that's right. Okay, so I think it's 4. Oh, we passed 4. So maybe we can start the session for today. But this is what I was intending to do. Maybe we discuss a bit about what you look forward from. And then I'll tell you certain very basic things about what people identify as professional writing. So before I begin, a word of caution. There can be people amongst us who are quite well with writing, who are at a very advanced stages of writing. If that is the case, then I do not know how can I cater to your demands and your concerns for this session. This was designed keeping in mind for people who don't have a touch with any of these things. Okay, people haven't really focused on writing till this time, or they have been, whatever writing they have been doing were in the rudimentary stage, a very, very, very basic stage. And for those people who want to work on structures, as in structures of writing sentences and other things, style of writing, etc., this should be a useful, these sessions are going to be useful. If you're already a good writer, if you're already, if you have a good sense of how writing works, and you have your own methods and techniques to improve it on your own, then this may not be a very useful thing for you. Okay, only if you're a beginner, or you are somewhere at the intermediate stage, then this should help you. Okay, so I want to make these things clear at the outset. And other things, so whichever part of language learning you are, you attend or you are a part of, whether that is listening, speaking, reading, writing, whichever part of the LSRW you belong to, the basic focus always is on precision and accuracy. Okay, so your primary goal has to be perfecting your structure, that is the basic rules, and I mean what you refer to as the grammar, right? So the basic, the focus should be mostly on that. And once you are done with that, then you can take up on the styles and add in your own and experiment it on your own. All of this experimentation and everything comes at a very advanced stage. But if you are still a beginner, then the focus must be mostly on the structure. We will discuss structures once in a while here, okay, because you're already listening to videos and other things as a part of the course to work on those things. So we won't take it up extensively here, although we'll bring it in once in a while whenever required. Okay, so if you come from that bracket of the learners, then along with these sessions, please also listen to the videos, the pre-recorded videos that you get as a part of the content for this course every week. Stay focused on that as well along with these sessions. If you're okay there, if you're somebody whose grammar and other things are fine, then you can take in, then this will work for you in the sense that it will introduce you to certain things that you might know, but you have been taking for granted for a while. Okay, so in that sense, it will help you, it will give you some space for improvement on what you already know. Yeah, so that was my 2 cents in the beginning. And anything that at this point you want to respond to, or you want to talk about, you want to add anything, just a couple of minutes maybe, and then when we start with the session.
Ma'am, I wanted to know about technical writing.
Yeah, this course is about, I mean, these sessions will definitely address technical writing. I mean, we're going to take up different types of what you refer to as technical writing, or domains, or things that use technical writing, right? Okay. So we'll take it up. Somebody has already talked about writing better emails, right? Yeah. So such things can be taken into consideration. Yeah. There was somebody else who was trying to speak. Yeah. Anything else from Rajat, Ram Prasad, Rohit, Aditya, Adrish? No? Okay, fine. If that's the case, then we begin with the sessions. I'm going to share the screen. Just let me know if you can see it or not. Sorry. Okay, is the screen visible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm visible.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you see a couple of things on the screen, right? This is about professional writing. So essentially what it is something that you use to deliver technical information, right? So anything that you see around which contains technical information, beginning with catalogs of products, brochures, okay, all of those are what you refer to as technical writing. Somebody just asked me about technical writing. So these are all, they're all byproducts of technical writing, if I may call it so. Okay, so now the more important question is, why do we call it technical in nature? What is it that makes it technical? Anything that you want to comment on in this? When I say technical, when I say a piece of writing is technical in nature, what do you think I mean by the word technical? Excuse me. Yeah, any responses?
It means it have some
You can raise
format.
your hands, okay? If you wish to speak, just to avoid too much noise and disturbance, you can raise your hands so that I can come to you one by one. Okay, this is Arpan speaking. Yes? Arpan,
Ma'am, it
yeah,
have
okay.
some format, not a simple paragraph stuff.
Right. It has a format. Okay, so that's the first word that has come. It has a format. Okay, format. Fine. So we take that. Is that all, Arpan, or do you want to say more, or shall I go to Rajat?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you, Rajat.
Ma'am, in technical writing, we usually give instructions or commands to do for our audience.
Instructions, commands. Okay. So format, instructions, commands. Anything more? So you can think about it in, if you're still confused on what it could mean by technical, think about it this way. What would you do? So where do you think this technical writing happens? Is it like, how is it different? We have the differences between both coming up in some time. But before that, before we look at that particular slide, where do you think it is it is mostly applicable? Technical writing. Is that a day-to-day?
Writing.
It is informal writing. So that's the word, right? Formal. This is something that you'll definitely find in formal spaces than any other areas, right? So then to tell me what technical means, you can think about this in terms of what do you think would happen in a formal space? How does a formal space look to you? Okay. It is important that you understand that. And once you know that, then you automatically, by default, you will get to know what happens in technical writing as well, even before me telling you anything about it. Okay, so formal writing, yes, another name that you can use for professional writing is formal writing, but it is more than formal writing, of course. But to begin with, yes, it is something that is written in the formal spaces. Then what do you think would be the major characteristic features of anything that is written in a professional space, or characteristic features of professional writing? How should it look like? Rajat, is your hands up for this one, or is it from before? Okay, Sarthak.
Ma'am, I think it should be something useful. It shouldn't be like casual chit chat. It should be something that conveys a clear message to a certain audience.
Conveys useful information to a certain audience. So two things: useful information and specific audience. Okay, two things. Yeah. Okay, so that is what defines formal space for you. And what else, Kavya?
Ma'am, I wanted to say that the content should be to the point rather than descriptive.
To the point, should be concise. No, descriptive things can be descriptive and concise as well. Okay, so when you call something descriptive, it does not mean that it has to be necessarily lengthy and too long for people to read and understand. Okay. Descriptive can be concise. These are not mutually exclusive. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Right. So, but yes, your first point is well taken. That is, it should be concise. It should be to the point, right? It should be specific. It should be, yeah. Okay. More from you. This is Satyashanti.
Ma'am, it should be impersonal information.
It should be impersonal information. Yes, no personal tone. So now you're referring to the tone of, okay, by the way, we were talking about formal spaces and not writing, but then, okay, no problem. So formal space, yes, requires you to be more impersonal in your tone and approach than personal. Correct. That's right. More. I see something in the chat. Let me.
It should be technical, ma'am.
Technical. So we are trying to define the word technical. Okay, trying to understand and describe what the word technical means. So all of this put together makes something technical. You can look at it this way. But more on formal spaces. What else do you see? There is somebody told format. Someone said it needs to be audience specific. It should be to the point. It should be concise. And yes, more to that. Anything else that comes to you? Purpose oriented? Yes or no? Right? Things need to be purpose oriented, right? So if it needs to be concise, if it has to be to the point, then first of all, the first and the foremost thing that you need to have on your mind is the purpose. Why am I writing this? Who am I addressing? Who's my audience and all comes. And before that, you have to know what is your purpose. Okay. And once you identify the purpose rightly, you're able to write better. A lot of these things, you can cut down on the length, unnecessary length that builds in your writing. Too many other redundant things which you usually are, you are forced to write, or sometimes you tend to write it that way. Okay. All of these things get downsized. That's the word you use. It gets downsized once your purpose is defined well. Okay, so that should also be one part of the formal space. Think about it in that sense. If you're in an office setup, all of these things are applicable, because you also work by a time and space constraint in your formal spaces. So everything has to then respect that particular fact. Even your writing will have to respect that. We don't have all the time in the world to sit through long paragraphs that you write down for us, or your, whether your colleagues or whether somebody higher up in the hierarchy, right? It's a very strictly time-bound, space-bound place, and everyone wants to get things done quickly and effectively, not just quickly, but also effectively. So things need to be to the point, things needs to be purpose-oriented, it needs to be specific in nature, it should address the right kind of audience, it should have an appropriate tone and approach, right? So all of this that is applicable to a formal space is also applicable to your writing in that space, which we call as formal writing or professional writing. Right? These things that we've just mentioned are sometimes, or most of the times, okay, let's put it that way, most of the times identified as the basic characteristic features of a professional, okay, or a professional space. Then professional writing essentially will also have to follow all of these things. Agree? Yes or no? Right? That's what we mean by. So to begin with, if somebody asks you, what do you mean by professional writing? How do I distinguish it from the other kinds of writing that I have, say, when you're writing a fiction, or when you are writing something like a blog, which is also, now what is the thing about blog? Blog can also have personal tones, right? It needn't be completely impersonal in nature, but it has formal aspects of writing as well. So professional writing in that sense is where everything that we discuss right now falls in place, right? So impersonal tone, audience specificity, and everything else that we just discussed, right? So this is what you're going to tell them if anybody asks you what is professional writing. Now, just, look at these examples, catalogs of products, brochures, medical description on a tablet strip, user manuals. Do you agree with me that they are professional examples of professional writing in place?
Of course, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
So does everything that we discussed, you think, figures in these write-ups in one way or the other? Do you agree that these things are concise in nature? They are meant for specific audience, not for everybody. Like, look at the best example I would give you is the medical description on a tablet strip. Okay. It is not easily accessible to everyone, although it is given to you in public, but you need some help in order to understand that, right? Everything is not just straightforward for you. So you need some sort of background information in order to understand the names of the compounds that's mentioned. Some of them are very common and we know what those things are. But if you want to really get a detailed understanding, then you need to know them. User manuals may not be as tough to read as a medical description on the tablet, but yet you still need to have certain vocabulary, some words used in there to understand. So if I have bought a smartphone, or if I have bought a laptop, and if I have a user manual with it, then I should know some basics of it, right? I cannot just directly approach the manual without knowing anything. So some kind of prerequisite in terms of knowledge is required to read them. So that's what makes it technical in nature. Should not contain metaphor slang. Okay, Nidhi. Yeah, we come to that very shortly, Nidhi. So yes. So in that sense, most of these things that you see on the screen, they do make up what we call as technical write-ups. Intended audience is specific, needs to possess recommended levels of knowledge, exactly the thing that we were discussing right now. And the writing has a purpose to serve, of course, right? All of these things, all of these examples that you say, they all serve a specific purpose. We know what they do. True. So then moving on to the next, is the slide changing for you?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Is it changed now?
Second slide.
Same
It's
slide.
already second slide.
Okay. It is differences between professional and literary writing. Is the slide shown for you?
No.
Oh,
Not yet?
We are still on what is professional writing.
yes.
Okay. I am not sure why that's happening.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Zoom. It doesn't get the presentation aspect of Word or PPT.
Sorry.
Ma'am, it's the thing with Zoom. It doesn't get the when you use the full screen mode.
It does not. Oh, it happens when you use this full screen mode. Then maybe I will quit the full screen mode. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Now
ma'am.
we
It
can.
is visible.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
nice.
It's visible now.
All right. So we'll keep it this way. Then maybe I can zoom it a bit so that you can see it. Is it okay now? Better
Yes.
than the
Yes,
previous
ma'am.
screen,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Okay. Right. So this particular slide just talks about everything that we defined while we were talking about professional writing, but then it also has something to say about the usually, contrasted counterpart of the professional writing, which is literary writing. Okay. Because these are the ones which have stark differences among each other. But then remember, there are other kind of formal writings also, like I mentioned in the case of blog. But since this is the one which has the most deeper contrast, we take it up as a for the point of discussion, for the sake of discussion, we take these things for a contrast. Okay, so you can read it through. I'm sure a lot of you will already understand that even without me even explaining. So one manages technical information so as to take suitable actions. So yeah, so one thing maybe that we have missed while we were discussing was that this is usually this has an action orientation involved in here. Okay, so most of the things that you do in your formal space has an intended action, right? So which means your writing is also something that is that needs to develop this form of writing, which we call as the persuasive form of writing. Okay, emails, reports, notices, circulars, all of them are in that sense persuasive in their tone. That means it wants the person, it wants the reader to take some action on that. Okay, so your idea is to get some action executed. So that is the first difference. So one is written to take suitable actions, and the other, they involve creative constructions such as poems or novels and other compilations. Okay, and they are mostly written to entertain and amuse. We know that. We have something in the chat. What's the kind of writing used for technical papers in journals? What do you think, Avinash, it is? What's the kind of writing used for technical papers in journals? You yourself mentioned technical papers.
Professional writing.
It has to be professional, right? So it's a kind of professional writing. research papers written in journals and other things. Of course, they have their own methods and methodologies, which is different from how you write an email and other things, which is what I meant by saying there are different kinds of professional writing, right? So yes, your journal paper definitely is a part of professional writing. It belongs to that domain. Okay, so the second one, return to inform and instruct. Yes, language used involves techniques such as the hyperbole, metaphors, etc., to bring in imagination and creativity. So imagination and creativity is not something that is allowed or recommended in professional writing. We don't want that, right? Why do you think it happens so? Last time we had this course, we had a discussion on this. Does professional writing, is it true that professional writing does not allow any space for creative writing? Like it does not allow you to be creative at all. And we had all kinds of answers. What do you think?
It doesn't actually, because
It allows.
because the name
just
itself.
a moment. This is Aditya speaking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so anybody who wants to respond, guys, please have your hands raised, because otherwise you will end up speaking over each other and it's going to be a very futile exercise. Okay, if you have anything to contribute, please have your hands raised and I'll come to you. Okay, right. So Aditya, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So I was saying that like the name itself has professional in it, right? So it means
no, forget about that. That's the name that we have coined. No. So we started a practice and then we called it professional writing because mostly exercised in the professional zones. So I am asking you, this is a very general question. So normally when you draw these distinctions, people have a tendency to put in things like this. Okay, one is more imaginative and creative in nature. I mean, not even more. If you say more imaginative and creative, I think that's a point well taken. But some people are of the opinion that there is absolutely no space for creativity in professional writing. I'm just trying to, this is not necessarily helpful for us in the course, but it's good to have such discussions sometime. Right. So I'm just asking you, this is a very opinion based question and this can differ. Some people would like to keep it very, very strict in tone and, pass it off, but others, people are different. If you want to be a little, stand out and be a little different from people, some people like using it. But what do you think? Generally, imaginations, creative things, keep aside imaginations. Of course, that is something that you definitely cannot use here. But how about creativity? Somebody says, this is Aditya Ji. We want the instructions to be clear and crisp with no ambiguity. Okay, so you think you wouldn't like to make it creative because creativity or creative use of language can bring in ambiguity. Is that what you meant, Aditya? I think that's what you meant.
Yes, ma'am.
Creative PPT is Apurva. You're not clear, Apurva. I did not know what you meant. But that's okay. Aditya, did you finish your point? I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, ma'am. That was my point.
That was your point. Yeah. Anybody with any, different opinion? I have Trishit's hands up. Trishit.
Yes, ma'am. I think creative writing is much more about expressing ourselves. But in professional writing, we have to follow some patterns, some rules, some regulation. So we are bound in that restriction.
So you will keep away from using creative language.
Yes,
okay, fine.
Yes,
then there is okay, thanks for that. And then I have Bhavya Aditya.
Yes, ma'am. I think that we can use a little bit of creativity in the way we present our message, in the way we present our facts, but we should not at all divert from the facts and the message we want to convey.
We don't divert. This is a
ourselves better.
Okay.
To make it more clear to the reader, but not otherwise.
Okay, so so from your answer, I gather that there are degrees in creativity, and maybe as in the creative use of language, and professional writing in that sense should have the lowest order of creativity in here. Is that what you meant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Maitreyi?
Ma'am, even professional writing can be creative, ma'am. You just have to be politely assertive.
Okay. Yeah,
and
polite.
not deviate from the topic.
Okay, fine. So you think, okay, all right. Politeness, of course, yeah, one thing that you always, but I don't know how much of it is linked with creativity, but yet I think I still get your point, what you want to say. Again, yours is an answer based on degrees of creativity. Okay. Like how far you can go with creativity is, I think, what you wanted to say. Who else here? Avinash, are you responding?
Yes, ma'am. I guess
Ah.
it depends on the writer itself. Writer can be creative and imaginative in terms
Okay.
of, say, drawing some analogy between a technical term or some other.
Okay, that's okay. That depends on the writer is fine. But what do you think? What is your opinion about having these things done in professional writing? You think there should be some space given to creativity there or not? Or do you think no, everything has to be, based on a template and format?
I think there should be some space given for creativity.
There
and
should be some
imagination.
space given. Okay.
Yeah.
Some space. So some space again goes to show that we all agree, but then again, there are differences in the degrees of how you can use it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Then Aditya. There's Aditya Gupta first. Okay, Aditya Gupta's hands were up first. Huh. No, Aditya? Okay, then Aditya Pathak can speak.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, first, ma'am, can you please just tell me quickly that what exactly do you mean by creativity here? I mean, in this context.
That is what I want to know from you, which is why I asked you this question. Okay, so I was about to say that it depends on how you perceive creativity. Okay. So what is creativity? So if you're from tech, do you use the word creativity more often?
No, ma'am. I believe that in this technical and scientific arena.
No, there is that one specific word which comes up always while you talk about technology, and you fill it for me. So that's roughly related to creativity, but I don't know. I see. Right. Innovation. Right. That's the word I was looking for. So there are people who will do this also. They will keep creativity for the arts and the social sciences, and they'll keep innovation for technical people. Okay. I have never been able to understand how different these things are at a conceptual level. Of course, the manifestation can be different. But yeah, there's this very serious distinction I see that people draw between innovation and creativity, which I have not been able to grasp. Okay.
Ma'am, may I just say something about this innovation and creativity part, which you just said?
You can. Of course.
What just struck me was that when we are talking about creativity, I mean, the first image that comes to my mind, that is, I don't know about others. The first image that comes to my mind is that creativity has no bounds. I mean, it can be anything. For example, if anybody's a painter, for example, right, he or she can draw literally anything that comes to their mind, right?
Okay.
It has no bounds. Like it's all up to your imagination, how well you imagine things, how well your hand-to-eye coordination is, or whatever it is that painters use to draw stuff, right? I wouldn't know because I don't know how to paint, but that's besides the point. And as far as technological innovation is concerned, see, whenever whenever some new invention has whenever something new has been invented, it follows some basic patterns and rules. I mean, it's bounded by some rules and regulations. I mean, you cannot for example, we have this very common very well known fact that light travels only in straight lines, right? This is pretty well known. So you cannot make light curve, right?
Okay.
So there are multiple different things which we can do with this, but the basic thing always remains the same. There is a bounded set which we have right here. So that is where you cannot be as creative as you can be with art subjects, because you have been restricted. Your domain has been restricted, right? So I believe that innovation is what we call innovation, where you have some restrictions.
Saying creativity is unlimited and innovation has its limits.
I mean, innovation does not have. I'm not saying innovation has limits. Innovation works within a few set limits. I mean, you find ways to be creative about you find ways to be creative within the restrictions you have been given. Right.
Okay.
You find different ways.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
example,
I get your point. I get
Right.
your point. I understand what you're trying to say, but these things are longer debates than what we can pack in a session.
Yes.
So I will have other things to talk about creativity in that. If this is what you're telling me, but okay, I take your point. My point was just to understand what do you guys think about it. Okay, then because again, as I told you, these are longer debates, so we can have endless hours of discussion on these things. But yes, I get your point, what you're trying to say. And I think it's a good point. For the time being, I take it, since we are not furthering the discussion anymore. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Pradeepan and Arun, are you, going to contribute
Yes,
to
ma'am.
this?
Ma'am,
Okay.
hello.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah,
Audible.
Prandipan. Yeah, ma'am. What I was trying to say that I was going to add a small point about that, whether we can add creativity in professional writing. I think we have the scope, but it's not. It's bounded, like the person before me said. It's bounded, but there are some scope, and if we can portray things in certain creative level, at certain creative level, we can engage the reader, who is reading. Suppose a manual. If we can put certain creative flair to it, we can the reader can read it with more interest, or get the facts or information with more efficiency. That's what I think. I think I would enjoy such manual. Or
You will enjoy being given some leeway with how you function than strictly following a template and rules and all that, right?
Yes,
or rather, you are saying that within that, whatever the limit is set to, you would like to still be creative within that limits, right?
Yes, because that gives a certain enjoyment to the
Sure,
writer.
I understand. So now we are digressing to what creativity means. I understand that, but then okay, we have one last point from who is this? Who's this? Is it Arun Kumar?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Arun, please.
Yeah, I'm audible.
You are audible, very much.
Okay, yeah, ma'am. I want to say that we are not enough creative in India, or I think non-native English speaking countries. But I think in native English. Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
In native English speaking countries, they are creative, and so much creative, ma'am.
We don't have anything to measure this tangibly. So, okay. So, I mean, yes, to some extent, and we have our own reasons for that. But you think it should be more creative, is what you're saying, right? Even with, we are talking about professional writing.
In India or non-native English speaking countries, I think.
So why do you say this non-native English speaking countries? You think this has got something to do with language?
Of course, ma'am.
Okay.
I think there is not any classification in professional writing or literary or other writings, or non-professional writing in native countries.
Oh, you think they don't see it differently?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
No, that's definitely. I mean, that I can definitely say no. That is, there is definitely a strict distinction. And where do you think we have derived most of these things from? Our professional spaces have mostly Western derived, and if you are talking about these things, then in some sense they have.
I'm not denying. I'm not absolutely denying, but I think they are improving and they are very creative than us.
Okay, fine. That's your viewpoint. I'm not of course, not endorsing those things, but yes, you have the right to make that point. Fine.
Okay,
Anyway, so some of us agree that a certain degree of creativity can be allowed and should be allowed in professional writing. Okay, so it does not have to be bland and boring, as like this is generally the opinion. No? When people say, oh, these are professional writing is quite boring. So my point was that you can still make it interesting. There are ways that you can do that, and because we are talking about writing, we know that the medium that you use, which is language, it gives you immense opportunities, vast opportunities to be creative in the way you present your ideas. So professional writing is also not away from it. Like many of you have mentioned, it needs to follow certain bounds and checks and other things. Within that thing, you can still be creative. So another point that I wanted to make here is that you don't need to have absolute freedom to be creative. Now that is a myth. Okay, if somebody tells you, I cannot be creative unless I'm given all the freedom in the world, that may be a too far-fetched argument to make. You can be creative within a limited zone too. Okay. In fact, there are studies which say that people who work within limited zones are more creative, because you know what, you push yourself to the limits, and because you know you are restricted, so you are forced to think more in that sense. Okay. Anyway, these are different positions and opinions and viewpoints of people. We can of course adopt whatever we want, but for our purposes, professional writing can be made interesting. It needn't be boring, it needn't be bland. And how does that happen? What helps you in doing that? The language. Okay. Fine. So other things I think is clear to you. We already discussed in the the initial few minutes of the session about the usage of simple sentences, impersonal and objective tone. Literary writing, of course, is not going to be that straightforward. It will use complex sentences and structures, linguistic aspects such as dialects and ambiguities. Okay, so they purposefully use these things. And they're allowed to do that. They are given that creative freedom, but you might not have that much of, you don't have a creative freedom to that extent in professional writing. The degree is definitely lower. Then, yeah, specific audience and general readers, we discussed this point as well. Okay, so now to quickly talk about elements of professional writing. What are they? Everything that we discuss can be put together into these 4 points. Okay, this nicely sums up what we were discussing until now. Okay, so the first one is it should be organized, and it should have organized and developed paragraphs, right? Now we are talking about writing per se. It should have organized and developed paragraphs. It should have an appropriate writing style. We'll discuss all of these one by one. Okay, what do we mean by organized and developed paragraphs? What is the paragraph itself? Okay, so this is what I meant by saying that this is aimed at basic learners and intermediate learners. So we look at what a paragraph is, what's the structure of a paragraph, what are the basic elements that go into a paragraph, and also how do you make them organized and developed. Okay, as in what are the different patterns of organization that you can use while you develop a paragraph, how to develop a paragraph, what goes into the making of a paragraph. All of these things will be a part of the discussion. And the second thing is appropriate writing style. What are the different kinds of styles, recommended styles in professional writing, and how can you improve on it? How can you make it better? What are the techniques that you can use to sound better, sound different? Okay, using the same set of things that you have. Right? I'm sure you have already heard this in your lectures from the previous term in that is in English one, maybe that you just have a very limited set of things in language, but with the limited set of things you can produce infinite number of sentences, you can make paragraphs, you can build your discourse, right? So with the help of the same language, you can develop different styles which can make you sound different. Even if you're saying the same thing, you can still sound different every time you make it, if you are proficient in using it well, right? So that includes the style. So we look at 2 things. One is what are the appropriate styles that is recommended for professional writing, and within the given styles, how can you work with the language, play with the language in order to sound better, sound different from what others have already said, maybe. Do I have questions in the that how should it look like and that imagination differences? Yeah, sure. Yes, every. Okay, guys, while we, you can have this discussion, but at least when we are discussing things in the, which is part of the session, maybe you should avoid discussion in the chat. For the time being, I have kept it open. I did not want to restrict any discussions that you guys wanted to have, but not when, you know, we are in session. Fine. So the next is clarity of ideas. So the style and the organization of the paragraphs, all of them will build together, even the spelling and the grammar and other aspects of language will together ensure clarity of ideas. So clarity of idea is not like one separate thing that is suspended in the air. Everything else that's there on your screen will together work to give you clarity of ideas. Okay, that is how you establish clarity. These are the 4 things that is considered the elements of professional writing. Okay, and we'll look at all of them one by one, what goes into each of them, like I already told. Okay, so I wanted to begin with the patterns of organization of a paragraph today with you. It's 4:45. Is there anything else that you want to comment on, or shall we move ahead? You can, the screen has changed for you, right? You can see patterns of organization of a paragraph.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Can the definition of formal change depending on in who we are writing to, the parameters, you know, which
The
define
definition doesn't change. It very much remains what we have already discussed. But what would change is the format, the template and the style of writing changes. Okay, like just to quickly give you an example, there are many kinds of emails, right? And if you have seen how you write an email, particularly the salutation part, you know, where you address the receiver of the email. There are different methods there are different ways in which you address the receiver of the email. Okay, have you seen this? Have you noticed any time from the mails that you have received or, you know, that you have seen elsewhere? Like, you know, imagine a formal and an informal letter. That's the easiest one for us because I think most of us have encountered that thing at one point or the other in our life, right? So is it the same way that you use even within the formal letters? There are different ways in how you address people, right? So if it is a familiar person, you use a certain system of addressal. If it is a stranger, then you use a different system of addressal. Okay, if it is somebody who you know and is you know, of your age and you know, your status, and your, by status I mean official status, okay, not anything else. If you're at the same level in an organization, there's a different way of addressing them. There's a different way of addressing somebody who is higher up in your organization, somebody higher in the hierarchy, right? So of course, all of them will follow that basic tenets that we discussed of the formal writing, but they will have different templates. There will be changes based on who you're addressing, what your purpose is, and other things. So which is why a circular and a notice, although they serve the same purpose, they have different formats. Okay, or a semi-formal letter and a formal letter looks a little different from each other, although both are formal. Okay, Tanya, still here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that answers your question. So yes, basic things are going to be the same, everything that we discussed, but based on who you are writing to, it definitely changes. Okay. Yeah, we will end by 5. You have no issues. You definitely can join that one. I will not take more than an hour. I know that you have other classes to attend, so this won't run longer than that. Okay, somebody else, Arun? No? This is Amit. Amit, you want to say something? I think your hands are up. If not, then you
Ma'am, what is general to a specific and a specific
we haven't
to
come to that. we haven't come to that. I haven't started discussing it, no? So, okay, if there are no more questions, maybe we can begin with this, and then we'll maybe wind it up with a discussion on general to specific as such. Okay, so what you see on your screen, these are different methods of organizing your sentences within a paragraph. Okay, so if you know how a paragraph looks like, all of us know definitely. So there are, what I'm saying is, there are different methods, there are different patterns to how you can organize your sentences in the paragraph. Okay, so you have a general to specific method, then a specific to general. I'll discuss each one, all of them with you one by one. So these are the ones that you generally use. So 5 of them: general to specific, specific to general, the cause effect arrangement, compare and contrast arrangement, and the chronological order arrangement. Okay, so for today's class, I will talk to you about this one, general to specific. Okay, you have an example on the screen, which is an example of the general to specific pattern of organization in a paragraph. Okay, please read it and try and tell me what you understand from general to specific before I talk to you about it. Read it. All right, so writing is a complex socio-cognitive process involving the construction of recorded messages on paper or on some other material, and more recently on a computer screen. The skills needed to write range from making the appropriate graphic marks through utilizing the resource of the chosen language to anticipating the reactions of the intended readers. The first skill area involves acquiring a writing system, which may be alphabetic, as in European languages, or non-alphabetic, as in many Asian languages. The second skill area requires selecting the appropriate grammar and vocabulary to form acceptable sentences and then arranging them in paragraphs. Third, writing involves thinking about the purpose of the text to be composed and about its possible effects on the intended readership. One important aspect of this last feature is the choice of a suitable style. Because of these characteristics, writing is not an innate natural ability like speaking, but has to be acquired through years of training or schooling. Okay. Now, what do we mean by general to specific pattern? Anything that you want to speak before I tell you? If you're finished reading.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Like as the name suggests, like we started with writing, fairly large concept, and then we explained what it is, and then we got down to individual skills required in writing, right? 1, 2, 3 skills, and after that we even pointed out some important characteristics of one of the skills which needs to be done, like the last 2 lines.
Right.
So
the last one was is an add-on sentence to the penultimate sentence, right? So something extra about what has been said in the second last sentence.
Yeah, exactly. So this is it. We started with something big,
you
and
started
then we got
off
down to details.
right. You started by giving a bigger picture. You gave a very general idea, a bird's eye view of the thing, maybe about what writing is. Okay, just a general thing on the writing, and then you went on to explain what you meant by it's a complex socio-cognitive process, right? You went into the specificities of what it was, right? So give a general statement and then go on giving the specificities, explaining other details. Basically, your supporting sentences in the paragraph. I know I haven't discussed the structure of paragraph with you. I have purposefully kept it after this thing because I thought, that order was better. Ideally, what you do is you first teach paragraph and its structure and then come to these things. Last time when I tried this method, it sat better with the people. They understood things better in this way. So I've taken this one up first. So all your topic sentence, so to call it, is a general statement about writing in sense. And then the rest of the statements that follow it, which we call as the supporting details, the supporting statements, they're all about this general, the explanation of this general statement that has been made very specifically. Okay, it takes up one by one, things one by one, and then detail it out on that. Okay, so this is what is called as a general to specific pattern of arrangement. This is one way you can write you can arrange sentences within your paragraphs. Okay, is that clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay, or do you can you see this or you do not understand still what general to specific? I don't get what general and what specific is in this case. Do you have a case, do you have a difficulty in understanding and seeing these things, or you're fine, you can see it? It's okay, right? I assume it's okay for all of you. Now we'll do one thing. We'll take up the other thing and do a compare and contrast, and you might understand things better. Okay. Now read this one. Read this one. Guys, it's okay. Whatever time your communication workshop happens, it happens. There shouldn't be confusion if you have already got an email. We stop by 5 at whatever cost. Okay. You don't have to worry too much about that. Please refer back to your emails to know the time well. All right, so the skills needed to write range from making the appropriate graphic marks through utilizing the resources of the chosen language to anticipating the reactions of the intended readers. The first skill area involves acquiring a writing system, which may be alphabetic or non-alphabetic. The second skill area requires selecting the appropriate grammar and vocabulary to form acceptable sentences and then arranging them in paragraphs. Third, writing involves thinking about the purpose of the text to be composed and about its possible effects on the intended readership, so on and so forth. And the last sentence says, unlike speaking, writing is a complex socio-cognitive process that has to be acquired through years of training or schooling. So this is the same. The content of the paragraph is very similar to what you, not very similar, it is exactly the same, like the one we just saw, right? All you have done is, what did you do? Now what you have done is you have given all the details, given out all the details in the beginning, and then you have sort of summed up it into a final general sentence, which is writing is a complex socio-cognitive. It just sums up saying that all these things, all these sentences that has just been presented tells you that writing is a complex socio-cognitive process, which needs to be acquired through years of training, right? So this is you have exactly done the opposite of what you have done in the previous one. Okay, so this is another kind of arrangement of sentences within a paragraph. Okay, while you write. Get this? Are these both clear to you? The specific to general pattern and the general to specific. Right? This is easy. No, it is not very tough. Or maybe when you read a different paragraph, it becomes it might come to bite you sometimes. You sometimes really cannot decide. So you need to focus a lot. Rather, you need to read more in order to identify these patterns. This one was a straightforward one. Every time your paragraphs needn't be this straightforward. Okay. Sometimes you will get paragraphs which have a mix of both too. But in any case, you must be able to point out what is the pattern being followed. Okay. So I hope this introduction will help you now to analyze next time you read things. Okay. All right. So two things, and then we'll quickly wrap it up. Okay, so specific, general to specific pattern. When and where can you use them, right? So now you know how to arrange these things. You know the pattern also. The other thing that you should know here is where and when can you use these things, okay? So where do you use the general to? Now, it does not mean you have to strictly use this, okay? It means from the observations that we have had from reading all these things, we see that mostly the general to specific pattern of arrangement are used in the following, where in introductory paragraphs, in the background in a research paper, opening paragraphs for a discussion or an analysis. Okay. Ravikant, what's the difference between the two? That's exactly what we were discussing. Did you not follow? You can unmute yourself and ask the doubt that you have specifically about it. Okay. But do others follow? There's nobody who has a problem, no? Except Ravikant, or are there others? Yes or no? No response?
Actually, they're specific to general. What was the first one?
It was general to specific.
Yeah, general to specific. So general to specific, it means making something which is general point and then specifying those things.
Yes, you detail out the specific information involved in that. Okay, and in the specific to general, you just reverse it in order. That's all. You initially give away all the details, and then you, as a sort of a summary or a concluding point, you give in the general point. Okay, get it?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So yeah, again, sorry for the digression. So where do you use a general to specific pattern? You can use them in introductory paragraphs, background in a research paper, opening paragraphs for a discussion or an analysis, essays, okay, general essays, mission and vision statements, marketing analysis, reports of scientific investigations, literature reviews, feature articles, editorials. Okay. Now, just keep this in mind. I'm going to add a disclaimer here. I am not telling you that you are not allowed to use specific to general pattern in any of these. It can be used. There could be examples where people use them, that particular arrangement, which is specific to general. But this is something that I'm telling you based on a larger observation, an observation of many things that we have already read. So this is the recommended pattern. Okay, it is advisable that you use, if you're a beginner in writing, you can use general to specific arrangement for when you are writing, the things that you see on your screen, like introductory paragraphs, etc., and other things you see. But in no way does it restrict you in using the other format. Okay, so you can find counter examples to this. So you don't, you might feel like, but this is what she said. So all I'm saying is this is the recommended technique. This is the neat technique that you can use, because based on the purposes that these things serve, like the introductory paragraphs, opening paragraphs, etc., the general to specific pattern looks like a better option to work with than the specific to general. Okay. Yes, Trishit, you had a question. I see your hand raised. No?
Yeah, ma'am. Basically, when that was what I was asking. That basically most of the things what we read generally follow the general to specific.
They follow the general to. So if it is mostly to instruct and give an information, if it is mostly descriptive in nature, then ideally you see a general to specific pattern, because that is what suits the purpose better. But again, if you have somebody who's quirky and want to experiment with things, then why not? So you're not going to be penalized because you use the the other pattern, but this is what will give it more neatness, more accuracy, more precision, and concise fields. Okay, somebody else also raised their hand. Who's that? Okay, all right, fine. So yeah, here's the thing for you in general to specific. Now, for specific to general, where do you use it? Now, this is usually used when your writing has to be persuasive in nature. Now, what is persuasive? When you have to, when you're writing for the purpose of, for action-oriented purposes, okay? You want to persuade somebody to take action on something. In that's called the persuasive style, and in such cases, in that kind of write-ups, you can use the specific to general pattern. Imagine something like a diagnostic report. Okay, diagnostic report, any kind of report. It can be even a lab report, okay, of a blood profile that you have done, right? So they give you all the specifics in the beginning, and then they give the general conclusions and observations at the end. You have observed these things in a lab report, right? So, so this is how you can use the general to specific pattern. Okay, so in diagnostic reports or speeches, right? If if you take a slight of a detour and talk about speaking, speeches are usually persuasive in nature. So if you look at a speech text, go back and read a speech text, any famous speech text, say the Gettysburg Address or anything, I Too Have a Dream, Martin Luther King, anything, any famous ones, or India's Tryst with Destiny, Jawaharlal Nehru. Read any of them and you will find that they follow a persuasive style. And see if you can observe the specific to general pattern of arrangement of text sentences in there. Okay. Right. So let's do one thing. It's 5 already. So we'll close it here. We'll continue with the rest of the 3 patterns, compare and contrast, cause, effect, and chronological order in the next class. And we'll do a bit of, few exercises with, we'll do an exercise with few paragraphs and see if you're able to identify these patterns. Okay. For today, we'll call it a day unless you have anything to ask me, any doubts or anything general that you want to say. If nothing, then you can leave the meeting. We can call it a day. Those of you who have anything to ask can stay back. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you next week.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Amit? Yes.
What is general to
Sorry?
What is general to specific?
What is general to specific? Here, look at this. Did you read the paragraph that we just showed you? Amit, can you make yourself a little more clear, because your voice is not breaking, but it's not clear. Can you make yourself clearer? Can you do something?
Yes, ma'am. Now I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible now.
Ma'am, I'm not getting anything from this paragraph, general to a specific.
Can you read it closely? 2 minutes.
Okay.
Because you cannot comment on this without reading, right? So just read it and look at the arrangement. Dikpal, yes, these documents will definitely be shared with you. You will find them in the English 2 folder. Once the class is over, we share this and you should be able to access the PDF form of this. Okay, no mention. Amit, how well are you doing on the reading? Finished?
Ma'am, no reading, ma'am.
Still reading. Okay, please take your time. Rest of you, if you have any questions to ask, you can. Otherwise, you guys are free to leave.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, Nitin, please go ahead.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
Okay, ma'am, I want to share something. Actually, my vocabulary is not so professional. Very bad, you can say. So, for that, what I do?
Nitin, so see, like writing itself, vocabulary is something that comes to you after a longer period of engagement. You need to, I was talking about this to the English 1 batch also yesterday. So there is, this is not an easy task. Learning anything is not going to be a cakewalk for any one of us. And particularly with language, given, if you are If you're an adult learner of a language, whether English or anything else, it's a little a tricky task to do, but not impossible. What you should do is you need to improve both your read time and your watch time with respect to vocabulary. Okay, what do I mean by read time? Simply read more. Okay, read. Excuse me.
Ma'am,
Read more. Huh.
Ma'am, I can read anything. Maybe our subject book, like ML books, right? Any book.
So see, you can read any book, but if you but yeah, right, so read something other than your subject book. Okay, your subject book, the problem with reading your subject book is that your focus is more on getting or working on your knowledge about the subject than anything else. But language learning will have to have more efforts than just doing that, right? And especially when it comes to vocabulary. So if you just follow your subject, your vocabulary is again going to be restricted, right? You're just going to acquire vocabulary that is specific to your domain or your field of study. But if you're looking at vocabulary extension in the larger sense, vocabulary is not just about the words that you use in your field in English, right? So you are going to use English in your conversational language as well. You're going to use that while talking to your friends or families or other things as well, right? So in that sense, if you need to improve on your vocabulary, you will have to definitely look at spaces that is not your immediate background in or your subject, that whatever you're learning. Okay, so improve on your read time other than your subject. Pick an area that is of interest to you, whether sports or movies or anything, politics, whatever you like reading, whatever the genre is. I'm not going to specify that because people have their own interests. Choose something, choose 2 or 3 additional topics and read more books, articles, online magazines, etc. Good books, good articles and all that in that area. Okay, identify a few. Don't take in too many of them. Identify 2 or 3 and read them regularly. Okay, so within some time, say in about 30-60 days, you will definitely see some sort of improvement in how you in where you stand already, from where you stand already. But again, this is a slow process. It will take some time. Initially, it is going to be really slow, but once you get into the habit of reading more, you will see significant changes, and that too quickly. Okay, one is that. Second is watch time, right? We live in the age of technology. You have all kind of visual mediums available to you. So please choose, again, the same thing. Choose a genre of watchables that you like among movies or series or anything, and watch them. Okay, spend just but don't spend more than an hour or hour and a half every day. Just spend some time. Your recreational time or your leisure time can be utilized this way. So start this thing, begin on these 2 things. And if you're looking to also work on accent along with vocabulary, I would definitely suggest you to go to the BBC. Okay, the BBC's, whether that's their news channel or their shows, they don't just have the news channel, they also have several other shows that they run on their programs. Okay, so you can
BBC Earth and BBC English both.
BBC, the larger thing. Okay, BBC actually has a lot of collection on YouTube itself. You don't have to go subscribe to them or anything, as in purchase a subscription with them. There's plenty of things in the BBC archives on their site and in YouTube too. So you can go to those things. You can watch their documentaries or radio shows. Radio shows are a good thing. Listen to them carefully. Train your ears to the sounds and expressions that you use. Okay, and you will see improvement definitely, and try to use them as well. Don't just listen. When you talk to people, try to use them also. Okay, and that way you will see definitely a good amount of improvement. But you need to take it a little seriously. You will have to make sure that you engage very closely with it. Okay,
ma'am, there's another request. Actually, ma'am, I'm applying for the job as ML engineer and maybe data analytics.
Okay.
I'm getting so many interviews and I have cleared 2 more 3. But still, I feel some fright, maybe frustration. I'm not very clear about my fundamental. So So should can you suggest me I go through the English one syllabus again? Maybe I have to go through English one syllabus again, ma'am.
No, I don't know what exactly. I mean, if it is about hesitation and other things, I think, Nitin, there were a couple of speaking workshops that were conducted. Did you participate in any of that? Did you get a chance to go to any of them?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm participating.
Okay.
Actively participating.
You are
But-
participating. So
Yeah.
again, Nitin, you don't see overnight changes, right? So these things need time to build in you. So what I would say to you is that along with, you're participating in the sessions here, put in some individual efforts in this way. Okay. Find platforms wherein you can engage with people, where you have space to talk more to people. If hesitation is the thing, because what you are telling me are psychological barriers, like I have fear and I have hesitation and all that. These things go away only with constant engagement, right? So if you are afraid of something and you do not do anything about it and sit at home, then probably you will have till the last day of your life, right? But you need to face it. You need to start talking more with people. You need to find spaces where you can engage more with people, and then your confidence builds. We definitely did not speak the way we speak now while we were in the first year of our college. So there's a significant change in the way we speak from what we were doing or saying in the first year to our last year, to our fifth year or fourth year. So why did this happen? Because we made sure that we constantly engage with people, we meet people, we talk to them, and as time passed, we never realized how did we get rid of how had we gotten rid of the hesitation or any fear if we had any. Okay, so the suggestion is this: confidence building happens only after you engage properly. So please come to all the workshops on speaking. Even this semester, you will have several of them organized. And I'm sure Shruti will have sessions in interviews also, GDs and interviews and other things. Come to that. Or additionally, you also have the Speak With Us session, wherein you will have a platform to speak one-on-one. So there'll be one person who would be exclusively talking to you. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so
you
much.
can make use of these ventures in our part. And additionally, you can do the things that I've already told you.
Okay.
Okay, Nitin?
Yeah. Sure, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just remember, psychological barriers don't go away on their own. We need to really work hard on them. Okay.
Wow.
So please engage, have longer periods of engagement with these things, and definitely you can make up for whatever problems you think you have now. Okay. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, Amit, yes. Let's come
Yes,
back.
ma'am, I
You
think I
finished
can
reading that.
understand general to a specific mean children who learn speaking from children to young.
Yeah, so that is again about educational psychology, but in this sense, when you talk about arrangement of sentences within a paragraph, do you understand what it means when we say general to specific in terms of arrangement of sentences? Yes or no? So see, so you look at the first sentence. Writing is a complex socio-cognitive process, so on and so forth. Okay, and then every other sentence that follows after that, is it not saying something about this statement? Is it not explaining that statement or giving more details about the statement? Did you not get that sense when you read the when you read the paragraph?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, then let's just read together. So writing is a complex socio-cognitive process involving the construction of recorded messages on paper or on some other material, and more recent on a computer screen. Okay, so this is somebody is writing about what writing is, what the process of writing is. And then the next sentence, the skills needed to write range from. So now you have already talked about what writing is, and now the second sentence, the person is talking about the skills that you require to write. Okay, so aren't these two things connected? You gave a general idea about writing, and now you're talking about how to acquire those skills. You're going to talk about the skills. right? So
Yes.
skills needed to write range from making appropriate graphic marks through utilizing resources of the chosen language, anticipating reactions, so on and so forth. Okay. And then about the skills, the next line, the first skill area involves acquiring a writing system. Okay. So on and so forth. The next sentence, the second skill area requires selecting. So now that person is giving, some sort of details about it. First, the person spoke about what is writing in general. Okay. What is the process of writing? Then he spoke about the skills that is required for you to, acquire the skill of writing, right? What are the skills required? Then he specifies what are those skill and skill areas. So the first skill, then the second skill, then the third one. And the second last sentence that you see is an additional statement supporting the final third point of writing involves thinking about the purpose of the text to be compared and about its possible effects on the intended readership. And in addition to, as an additional point to it, the second last sentence, one important aspect of this last feature is the choice of a suitable style. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
And then comes, because of these characteristics, writing is not an innate natural ability like speaking, but has to be acquired through years of training or schooling. So this is a form of conclusion statement to everything else that has been said before. Like, this is the order of arrangement. This much you can see, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how we started? We started by talking about writing in general, and then we moved on to talking about specific skills that are required to build this writing. We told about writing that this is not an easy thing like speaking. It requires years of training. It's a skill required activity, and you need to work on that. Then you went ahead and told everything about the specifics required in terms of skills there, and then we gave a concluding statement about as in so in order to re-emphasize on everything else that went before that. Okay, so isn't it not so? Don't you see a general to specific pattern movement here now?
Yes, ma'am.
No, still no.
No, ma'am, I'm getting general to specific. And the
right.
specific to general?
Specific to general, look at this one. What are we doing? It's the same paragraph, but we have turned it upside down. In the sense, we have shifted the general statement to the end. You began with the skills needed to write range from and all those things. And then at the end, you said, unlike speaking, now because of all of this, unlike speaking, writing is a complex socio-cognitive process that has to be acquired. See that?
Yes, ma'am.
What did we do? We gave away all the details in the beginning and then summed it up in the end, saying that, so we think that writing is a complex socio-cognitive process that has to be acquired through years of training or schooling. So that's the general statement that you can give to all the specifics that was given before. See that?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So this is the arrangement. So if you use this form of arrangement in a paragraph, it's called specific to general. And if you use the other way around, then it is general to specific. The most common form of arrangement is actually the general to specific pattern. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Keep that in mind. You see the difference now?
Yes, ma'am.
No problem?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You will understand it better when we do the exercises in the next class. It should be easily, it should be comprehensible to you after that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay, guys. Thank you. So we'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much. Is anyone here? Sri Balaji, sir?